Hi, good afternoon,
Yes,
everyone.
Oh, hey.
that was powerful.
Yes, and that's what we missed last week. That's why we were laughing so much. We forgot all about the intro to the show. We just came live.
Let,
Way.
let me say, I didn't forget. I didn't have access to it.
Yes, yes,
I missed the training on it to my shame. To
yes,
my
yes.
shame.
So, good afternoon, everyone. It is 1 o'clock, and we're coming to you from Financial Sins during your late lunch hour. And so today it's just me and Anthony. Our co-host, Miss Mad Flo, is going to be out today. We miss her dearly.
Big
But
time.
she's doing what she does best, and that's travel with those babies that she loves traveling with. And I hope that she's going to be on today, keeping you all engaged over on the phone. But again, this is Financial Sense, and kind of what we do, what we all do, is we keep doing the same thing over and over and over and cannot seem to grow our money. And here on Financial Sense, what we do is we try to give you some tips, things that you can do better about your finances. My name is Tanya Scott Pilcher, and I'm with Get Skills and a licensed insurance agent. What we try to do in the community is provide those that are interested in getting into insurance, preparing you for that life insurance exam. The insurance industry is $1 trillion industry. And I believe that those of you that are interested in getting involved in something else besides, working on that 9 to 5, is that this is the biggest and best thing that you can do. So we help people understand insurance a little bit better, along with getting into that class. And we also have classes for the public. I have my wonderful co-host, Mr. Anthony Murray, that is also with us today. Anthony, how you feeling? What's going on?
I am feeling awesome. When you said wonderful, Mom must have put a bug in your egg.
She doesn't like to come on the show unless you here.
Oh, what? Well, I have to make sure I'm here all the time. She's a wonderful person. Hey, listen, guys, I want to thank you so much for being at your show. This is your show. The reason this is your show, because we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you. All right. We have a phenomenal return guest, Manny Henson. He is a CFP, Certified Financial Planner, and he's going to go into more depth about that in a little while. But just to tell you a little bit about myself, I'm working with a organization called World Financial Group, who is parented by a company called Transamerica. Transamerica is a wholly owned organization by another company called Aegon. So together but yet separate, okay? And so World Financial Group have a little baby called World System Builder, and I'm part of that. I'm an independent contractor. I am what I like to look at myself as a franchisee. All right, I'm an independent contractor. All right, so I work with a group of people, but I'm independent. I'm independent, but I'm not by myself, and I love that. All right, so we have a phenomenal show for you guys today. We're going to recap some of the things we talked about last week. We're going to talk about some new things. We're going to step on your toes. Hopefully, you'll try to step on our toes. We want a dialogue. We want to talk with you. All right. And so we want you guys to get all your questions about your money and questions about retirement and questions about your mother's money, your father's money, your brother's money, your sister's money. We want to talk about everybody's money. All right. And we have somebody that could talk in every area of that. And he looked young. Well, he is young. He is young, but he's been in the business for a long time. All right. When you start young and stick with it, you learn things along the way, and you still look young, like me. Yeah, I'm missing a couple of teeth. Lord knows there's one loose now.
Hey,
As
Manny,
the dentist, here I come.
I'm gonna cut him off. Like, hey, Manny, how you doing?
No, I'm having fun. Everything's going. We got good vibe going on.
Let's talk. Manny, talk to us. Oh, Tanya's cut me off. Okay, Tanya, cut me off.
How are you, Manny? Come on here.
I'm doing
tell
all right.
people about you.
Happy Friday. Yeah, I've been in the corporate America for about 15 years prior to starting my own firm about a year and a half ago. And so I am a registered investment advisory firm that offers investment management, turnkey investment management, 401k advice for small business owners, and individual guidance that doesn't require investment minimums or high investment minimums if you want investment recommendations. So I am a comprehensive financial planner. I give financial planning to the next generation of investors, as well as the people who are in our 40s and 60s, 18 to 80, I say. So, and everywhere in between. And so I'm glad to be here with you today.
Awesome. We are glad to have you back with us this week. We started this conversation last week in reference to retirement. And, you know, I am in my mid 50s now.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I'm trying to figure out whether or not I'm doing it right, doing it wrong. I have no idea. You know, of course, they got that 401k that's sitting, and I haven't retired yet. I don't know how to, you know, plan. I do believe in my heart, because I grew up with my great grandparents who were in their 80s and 90s before they passed away, and a grandmother, that I'm going to be here that long. And I just don't know if my money going to be here that long. So what can you tell me to do?
Yeah, so the first thing is knowing that that's a challenge. First thing is observing that hey, I have longevity risks. I have family members that are living long, and maybe I need to consider that in the plans that I develop. So one of two options that most people already have is a Social Security. You have an annuity payment, so a payment from Social Security once you have 10 years of work history that's going to last the rest of your life, right? So you have a guaranteed payment stream coming, and you can take that between 62 and 70. And so knowing how much that guarantee is going to be important. And then the next step is working with your investment providers. If you have a 401k, you already have an investment provider, you just don't know it. In most cases, with a 401k plan, there are people that are there. There are licensed individuals who can give you some complimentary retirement planning advice, help you do some forecasting, help you understand what investments are available through your employer, and you're going to get the most flexibility through your employer. Right now, you can put up to $6,500 with an additional $1,000 if you're over 50 into an individual retirement account, which is not that much. If you're planning to start retirement, you're a late saver, you know, that may not be enough.
Okay.
401ks go up to $20,000.
Okay,
and
slow down and go back. Go back, okay, because those of us are still trying to get it. So you said something about putting something away, annuity. So how much, where do I put it? You know, that kind of stuff. So go back a minute.
Yeah.
Go back a little bit.
So from the moment you got your first job, there is a Social Security tax that you're paying.
Right.
And it's 6.2% of your income.
How much?
That's what? 6.2% of your income.
6.2. Okay.
Okay. And that money has been put aside from the first paycheck, first job you ever have had. And after 40 quarters or 10 years,
right,
you have a lifetime benefit that you can take at 62. And for most people, that's going to replace 30 to 40% of their income at retirement. And so you have that there. And so start there. What is it that you're going to earn? And what is that gap you need to replace? So Social Security, like I said, most people need 105%, 120, 130% of what they earn. No one lives off of just 30, 40% of their money. So what is that gap? What do you need to replace above that? And then work with what you have. Figure out what you have now at your disposal. And if you have retirement calculators that are out there, or your 401k website. That might be a good resource. And so that's a good starting point, figuring out, what is it, the level of income you need to take. And once you have multiple people, like if you're married, it starts to get a little bit more tricky. You have pensions that are going to be there, perhaps talking to a financial planner, independent financial planner that can go over other alternatives and make sure that the plan works together with all these different elements makes more sense. Yeah.
All right. So you said something very interesting about, I like how you introduced yourself. You said you're a comprehensive financial planner. All right. So let's dig into that a little more. All right. I want people to really get to know who you are. All right. So when you say comprehensive, and you said 18 to 80. All right. So let's start with you. How old are you?
I'm 36.
30. All right. So you are an old man. All right.
I exercising and having a beautiful wife who takes care
There
of me.
you go. There you go. That's right. That's right. You better acknowledge her. That's right. So you're relatively still a young man. All right. Now let's look at this comprehensive. What is it that say a 18-year-old to like 25-year-old should be looking at when it comes to retirement? Because most people in that bracket, like right now, the big thing is Bitcoin. That's every time I talk to someone in that age group, they're talking about Bitcoin or the day trading.
Right.
We'll elaborate on that a little bit, if you can.
Yeah. So I think whenever you have these new opportunities, new investment opportunities, I think the younger generations who may have not lost a lot of money before, the first to be the earlier adopters, and they have the risk that if, hey, in their 20s, if they mess up, they can always start over in their 30s and 40s. So it's become a really interesting idea. But going back to what you first said is, what do you need to be worrying about, and what's the difference between comprehensive and not, right?
Mm-hmm.
So let's look at a typical household. Typical household is like $50,000 a year, right? Average, right? Median. A lot of people make a lot higher than that. Some people make a lot lower than that. Let's say you have 50,000 and you work over 40 years. That's, that's $2 million. So instead of focusing on the 5% that you save of that every year, what if we work on all of it and make sure it goes, it works well, and then eventually that 5% that you are able to afford to put away can grow to 10%, to go to 15%, and then we could talk about the investment management. And what I recognize is in the past organizations that I work with, they're more so concerned about that 5%, the money that you get put aside, and then not necessarily helping those people who had the other funds. So how do I do that? It's about making sure that you have a line in the sand when you go to bid for houses, right? So how much can you afford in your budget, not just what your mortgage broker tells you you can afford.
Amen.
Does grad school adding and borrowing $40,000 going to make a difference in your trajectory of your income? Let's put it on paper. Let's go dollars and cents. Let's look at it. Let's do some research. So how much should you buy a home or buy a car? Should you lease a car? Should you take a high deductible health plan or a PPO plan? So there's all these decisions, these financial decisions that we make that are separate from investment and insurance. And don't get me wrong, investment and insurance is extremely important. I talk about investment insurance all the time. But I think for that younger generation, there's so much more that we need to be offering, and that we can offer, that I could offer, and I think in a reasonable way, to help them get to that stage where they can put 15% of their money away, and they don't have to worry about being behind the 8 ball. And so that we did some research on that. The industry came up with a term called Gamma. That's the name of my firm, Gamma Wealth Management, and that adds about 3% to your wealth a year by having a financial planner look at the comprehensive way of addressing all of those financial issues, not just the investment and insurance piece. As far as people waiting and who need to, who through just circumstances are a little bit later in the game, there's guaranteed income in products like annuities to give you guaranteed income that you can add on top of your Social Security, which most working people will have.
Right.
There's if you're a government employee, you have a pension in a lot of cases, and so there's a number of ways to get to the same place. And I look at it on a person by person, household to household circumstance, and figure out, all right, how do we build this together? How do we build this plan that works?
Man, that's powerful. Tanya, you're getting ready to say something.
Well, I was getting ready to say we have so many teachers that have, taken kind of early retirement. They have that 403B, and some of them are, I don't know if they're going to pull from it, but any advice to them before, since school is just starting, a lot of them may have done something or they've, broken away now, and they are looking at what they have. Is there any hope for them to be able, because they did it early? Any advice to them?
And as you address that, is it wise for them to leave their money there or to put it somewhere else?
Good question. Good question. So I would say there is one thing you need to know about your 403B. The moment you leave, or 401k or 457, any of those plans, by law, the moment you have over $5,000, they cannot force you out. You do not need to move it. So just be careful about what you decide to do. Also, if you're between the ages of 55 to 60, this is what I want you to do. I want you to leave it alone. I don't want you to touch it. Here's why. If you're between the ages of 55 and 60 before you leave, when you leave, you can take penalty-free distributions from your 403B when you need it, if you need it, without having any kind of challenges. The moment you move that money from your employer plan to an IRA, there's a 10% penalty if you need that money between the ages of 55 and 59 and a half. All right. So the one key thing to know is, like, once you leave, you're making a decision to leave because of a number of different circumstances. Don't rush. You don't have to be rushed. There's nothing you're obligated to do until you're like 72. And so you have plenty enough time to think about where this money should go. Now, with that being said, there are fees, and when the organization, whether you're Google or your local elementary school district or school, they go to these financial product providers and they negotiate their cost, and that cost is what you don't keep in your performance. And so typically, the larger the company you have, the better your plan is, your better your 401k is. And so if you're coming from a smaller district and maybe you're going to a bigger company, you're going into the private sector, maybe there's more money, compare and contrast those plans and maybe consider moving that old plan to your new plan. One, because it could be better and lower fees, it could be better performance, and you know where it is. So like a lot of the old 403Bs, they were not administrated the best, and there's changing people. I've heard of people not losing their money in their plan, but it moving from financial company to financial company. 20, 30 years goes by, and you're like, I don't know where my money is. And so keeping a track of it, in my generation, we're gonna change jobs 6 or 7 times. Yeah. It just makes more sense to just move that money and consolidate, and often cases to, one, get better performance, but also like know where things are. And so you're not investing in having this risk somewhere that you don't know. And you kind of have a better idea how on track you are for the retirement you want.
All right, that's great. Now, let me also mention that when you have a index or you have an IRA, an annuity, you will have an opportunity on the anniversary to do a free withdrawal up to 10%. Mm-hmm. All right, that still hold true and with IRA accounts, correct?
Well, so that's an annuity specific product and
Yeah.
product feature. And so when I talk to people who are looking at retirement income, I'm looking at income types of opportunities, whether it be fixed income or dividend stocks or annuities. I'm not biased towards any particular option. And I have a network of insurance brokers who go to different insurance carriers to find guaranteed income rates, and so I can model that into plans.
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of these features, like you mentioned, some of them, in some cases, in most cases, you're going to give up some level of liquidity there. But if you're late into retirement, you're late on track, you're late for where you want to be for retirement, then you got to consider everything. If the market's down 30%, 40%, what does that do to your income needs? Are you just going to stop pulling from your portfolio?
Exactly.
Could you survive off of just Social Security? Are you going to go back to work? Are you going to take a part-time job? I think some people are choosing that latter option. A lot of people are, going semi-retired, right? So you have a little bit of a job that keeps you busy because you're meant to, my father, I talk to him, like he's in his late 60s and he's playing music, and because that's what he loves, and he plays the bass, and I'm trying to help him get a website so he can teach people, and so I'm teaching him the virtual stuff as well. But that keeps his mind busy, and that's something you gotta remember. Like you're gonna be working for 30-40 years. You're not going to just want to just stay home in the house all the time. You want to make sure your mind is being active and has a good level of stress, and then that might compensate you. You could teach, you can go back to school, people are living in retirement in a different way now, and so
that's right.
It's semi-retirements. Maybe you have. I would love to teach. That's what I want to do in my 60s and 70s. And I work with a lot of government employees in the state of Maryland, and it was not hard to find professors in their 80s and 90s teaching. And so, if you can't retire, if you want to retire, you have to retire. You have guaranteed income opportunities, investment opportunities, and if there aren't enough, you're going to end up working. But there's other types of work that are a little less stressful than there used to be.
Yeah. Hey, let's go back just a little bit, and I don't mean to take up all of my co-host time. I know she's going to look at me.
I'm good. Go ahead.
You're good. All right. Good. All right. So let's look at those with the 401s, 403s. All right. They want to move them. All right. They don't want to keep them there. All right. We have a lot of people. I have a lot of people that's looking at indexed annuities, fixed annuities, which are good for them to have. But let's look at, for someone who wants to do that, going to an indexed. And here again, we're being product specific. All right. So there's a lot of people, they just don't know. They don't know what to do other than, and I was looking at Sherelle Grant, and she said she retired 10 years ago and still getting interest on her 403B. All right. So she probably is in a variable account. All right. But talk along that line, some people that, hey, you want to move it. Now they're in, most of these people,
they can't move it.
They're going to be in their 60s. All right. So they're going to be past the penalty stage anyway.
Okay.
All right. So,
what can
they want to move it. Huh, Tanya?
I said, what can they do? Yeah.
Right. What can they do?
Yeah. So the one option you mentioned, if there's another provider, so you would create a relationship with that provider and they have that product. So think about a IRA or as a bucket. Or an annuity as a bucket. And in that bucket, you can put different things in it. Your 403B is a bucket too. You have different things that you can put into it. And so with your 403B, you have mutual funds, which are professionally advised investments that pull their assets together, and they follow a specific objective. And that objective could be growth, it could be income, it could be all growth and income.
Right.
And so you can, at your 60s, either click a button, fill out some forms and say, hey, I want a check or direct deposit to my bank account every month, every quarter of that money. Now you're at the mercy of the markets, and there's something you're giving up by that. And you also, every plan is not required to offer cash management solutions like that, right? So that's a challenge. But now let's say you went to the direction of you forecasting, hey, if the market went down 30%, I can't take money out of my account, and I want to have some guarantee. You mentioned a product called index annuities, which gives you some level. There's like a variable annuity that gives you some level of performance based on whatever index it's tracking, but gives you some, perhaps it give you some kind of cap on the downside. That's an option, and you just want to make sure that people understand what the details are, because every insurance companies are different. I'm not a insurance producer in Maryland. I used to be. I work with independent insurance brokers to get quotes on different products, and I just model the options to give people the pros and cons, the trade-offs with each.
So when you have money in your 401k, can I pull money out of my 401k and put it in an annuity, or do I need to have extra money or another set of funds to do that?
So there is in many cases Annuities got a lot of a bad rap, and so the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau which was an invention from the last recession, kind of came out and just made some crackdowns, and one was, and they rolled back some of those rules and those regulatory constraints. One was that you had to go and do a whole comparison whenever you did a rollover out of a 401k and 403b plan, and I just continue to just do that, just out of just making sure people understand what are they giving up, even though I'm not required to do that. But I would do that. I would say, what are your options here? What are you giving up? I'm a fee only planner, so people don't pay me out of their investment, their 401ks, they pay me directly, and so I have the flexibility either to compensate the cost of me doing the work from them just paying me directly, and I give them guidance on their plan. Or they can roll over. So either way is what I would work with people to do and figure out which one makes the best sense. And so if they were to roll over, I'd show them where they're going into, and I'd go over paperwork, and I'd help them through that whole process. And then in most insurance carriers, they want to make sure that they're not putting all of their money in some kind of fixed product, even though it's not required. Their rule might be, okay, they're only going to take 30 or 40% of their net worth or liquid net worth. So that they have something else they can lean on if they got to replace their roof, or they got to get a new car, get their car fixed at a moment's notice. And so, with anybody who's adding annuity products into a retirement income strategy, most of them are doing right, which is to say, hey, we're gonna put some there, but we're also gonna have some money elsewhere. If you have an emergency, you have something you can pull from.
Exactly, something readily available to you.
Yeah.
Hey, Pam Jones asked a question. She said, "What is your opinion of index universal life insurance policies?"
And for what purpose? Everything has its own particular purpose.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you have to look at that. I saw a lot of IULs, and at one point I was not. Years ago, I used to deal with just universal life policies. All right, and then and I was really like hesitant on them, but then after a while, I kind of got used to them. Getting away from the whole life to the universal life, and the universal life thing that really was kind of hard for me was the variable, the shifting of the there's no guarantees really, in that. But now they have the IUL, so things have kind of evolved. The universal life is still out there, but the index universal life, one of the things I like about it is that it will give you that protection. So it gives protection, and you can add. It's like a smorgasbord, so to speak. You can add with being product specific again, depending on the company. We can add long-term care. All right, and so that's very important. Now, what some people are afraid of, well, what happens as far as if it becomes modified or an endowment contract? Well,
Right.
there's a little box we check that
Make
the
sure that it
computer
does.
actually asks, if you forget it, did you check that? So they have some safety measures to make sure that we do check that box, that we do not want it to become a modified endowment contract. So what's your opinion though on index universal life? And here again, you did make the statement as far as for what purpose?
Right. Yeah. So I would say in most of the, in many cases, I'm a little lean more towards plain pure insurance, especially for my younger people. Typically, they have a specific need, and that need sunsets at a particular time. Maybe putting their kids through college, paying
Mhm.
off the mortgage, and that sort of thing. Where in their 50s and 60s, they're mainly focusing on retirement. And I haven't. I've done this exercise before for myself, but I haven't found the premiums to be um,
Yeah.
uh, good enough for the value of what they are, and it may be different, depends on the insurance company. So I might have to look at the situation. But where I do
Yeah.
see an opportunity here is what's called buy sell agreements. Let's
Right.
say you and your business owner, you are partners with another person, and so let's say I have my own financial planning firm, and I have another partner with me. And if I pass away, I want my wife to get half of the value of my business.
Correct.
And so my partner, she might have an insurance policy on me, and I might have an insurance policy on her, but the business value changes. So maybe the death benefit needs to change and adjust with the value of the business. And so I think that might be a unique case for something like that, and it builds cash value. It might be able to pay off its premiums.
Mm-hmm.
And so you could possibly get a deduction on the premium from your business as a business deduction. And so I think that's a unique use case. But for most people, they're not in situations like that. I usually lean towards pure insurance, or if there's a historical risk factors where whole life might make sense if you get it younger for someone. I got a whole life for my daughter. I'm not against insurance, like whole life insurance and things with cash value, but I think it has to be for the right person or right situation.
Yeah, and I agree. And everyone, for instance, I had a client who they wanted an IUL, but for the amount that they could afford and the amount of coverage they needed, it wasn't feasible. So I recommended a term. No, now the term is gonna cancel out eventually, but this term will give them a 5 year period where they could change it over, convert it over to the IUL after they have more income. You know, and so they like that idea of being able to build up their income and then convert over without having to worry about going through the medical checkup again.
Yeah, that's another common thing. So I've had some people who are also looking at long-term care policy writers in their insurance products, because you're going to spend, maybe 3 to 5 years and less, part of your life in a long-term care facility, and that might be $10,000 to $20,000. And so looking at prepaying that doesn't require you to spend down your assets and doesn't require you to gift something to your kids before you go to Medicaid. And in some states have an exemption to where your assets of equivalent value don't need to be spent down if you have some of these long-term care policies. So yeah, there's certainly some unique ways you can use insurance, and a conversion feature, which is, especially in later years, is helpful to get locked down at a younger age.
So Manny, part of what we do here is we try to help people understand what they should do better. And I am sure that you've run across different situations and would like for you to share one of those things that you've seen happen as people get older from this age to that, and kind of what direction should they go in? What's the advice you would give, and how people still may have the time to clean it up and may not, but what they need to do Give us
Yeah.
some.
So the biggest thing is mental and emotional. I think we need to talk about that. And so for one is a Chinese proverb that says the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second next best time is now. And so you have to don't think about being perfect. Don't let the perfection be the enemy of progress. Just make some kind of adjustment, make small incremental adjustments, and then keep things simple. And so I think if you do those two things and you make these small sacrifices, maybe you look at downgrading your cable. Maybe you maybe look at your streaming. How many streaming services do you have? Can you consolidate things? Can you refinance your mortgage? Find that cash flow that's going to need you to pick up the pace and get you back to where you need to be.
So if I find the cash flow and pick it up, okay, so I cut my cable down, made everybody, put the air condition up at 90 to 78, and save some money. Then what am I doing with it? So am I going to keep it in my bank account?
Yeah, I'm a little bit biased. It's savings for short-term needs, investing is for long-term needs.
Right.
Savings are going to help you with the emergencies. Have at least 3 months of savings. If you have any children, 6 months, I would prefer. And if you have any real estate, 12 months. Don't think your tenants are going to pay your mortgage. I think that's something we all figured out the last year or so.
Yeah.
The other part is to work with someone. I like fee-only financial planners. There's a really great resource called Quad A, the African American Associations of Financial Advisors, where you can search for someone near you. They have to be vied and sorted, so you can search for one that's available near you. You can also go to the Fee-Only Network, National Associations of Personal Financial Advisors, and you can find a fee-only planner that's working holistically to address all these needs together.
Okay, and that first one was Quad A?
Yes.
QUAD and the letter A behind it?
Yeah, I'll give you the website. Is there a way for me to provide the website?
Just tell me what it is.
AAA FAINC.
AINC. Okay.
.com.
Now, what is that website for?
So you can search for a financial planner or a financial advisor near you.
And that was that's African American financial advisors.
All right. Now, how does one become, let's say someone's already in the finance industry and they want to take it to the next level. They want to become a financial planner, financial advisor. It doesn't happen automatically. They cannot just start using those designations. They have to earn that, go to school or whatever. So tell us about that.
I did the same way that you are talking about it. I started out in insurance. I started out with a company. It was owned by Citigroup at the time. I think they spun off and became their own company, and got exposure to how to understand how to grow a business and create a business and that sort of thing. And then I worked as a broker first before becoming a financial advisor. And it's a subtle difference, right? Broker is going to sell you product and that sort of thing, but they also educate and they're product specialists. And so I was a product specialist 22, 23 and financial plans, 401ks, 403bs, pension plans, and mutual funds and ETFs. And so those are my products. And then I grew from that point in time to get expanded duties and trading and compliance and other things. So it's looking at it as a career, and there's certainly some great places to go. Bigger firms have the education that's part of the relationship that's going to be there. Although there are some fee-only planning firms or financial planning firms they'll take people that are newer to the industry. But I think a lot of the product companies, insurance companies, like you mentioned, great names, have a really good training curriculum, and then you'll learn the designation that you want to focus on. So you might see yourself as, I started off, I wanted to go to do the CFA, and I started studying for the CFA. I was going to be a analyst, and so I research stocks and write white papers all day and be in a room by myself. And I realized I didn't really want to do that. And
You're a people person.
Yeah, I want to be involved. I want to see what actually happens and who's actually hearing what I'm saying should be done.
Right.
And so I studied for the CFP. Got my CFP first. Started studying for the CFA. Put that aside. I'm working on my enrolled agent now, which allows me to represent people in tax court. And so everyone's going to learn what they like to do, and then you focus on that designation or discipline.
All right.
Oh, I gotta ask, why tax court?
The enrolled agent is a designation by the IRA that you study for examinations, 3 parts. Allows you to represent people in tax court. It's almost like a CPA, but we do a little bit more when it comes to representation.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. At least I know who to call. It's not Ghostbusters.
Yeah. I also do tax returns and all that kind of good stuff.
All right. So look, Pam is hot today with questions.
Oh,
Yeah.
And that name rings a bell. Seems like I know that name from World System Builder. I may be incorrect, but her question is: would anyone here advise relatives of a childless older relative to ask about their retirement plans? So the older relative does not have any children.
Mm-hmm.
And you have another relative that may be in the business, that should that relative ask them about their retirement plans? Why not? I mean, that's what I say. Why not? Because when you're in the finance industry, the initial objective from my viewpoint is to help people.
Mm-hmm.
It's not to make money. When you help people, you're going to make money. All right. Mm-hmm. But if your objective is, I want to help you, and that's what it has to be. Because if you do something outside of wanting to help someone, then you're going to be in some muddy waters, and chances are you're going to start breaking some regulations. You're going to get in trouble, and you may lose your license or get fined, or a combination of lose your license, fine, and jail time. So the objective of any financial individual has to be initially and sincerely, I want to help people. So even if they're a relative, and relatives can be kind of difficult, man, especially when they're older, because they're set in their ways, a lot of them.
Well, she finished that sentence, because the younger relative may become responsible for them in their old age.
Well, that is true. That is true. You got to be ready for that responsibility.
Yes.
Yeah, long-term care insurance only gets more expensive as you get older.
And I tell you what,
and you can get, and you could be a part. You can. It's I think it's an emotional thing too, right? So you got to be comfortable with asking an uncomfortable question. It is an uncomfortable question, right. And so you got to have a subtle way to say, hey, I've been looking at this opportunity. I've been looking at my retirement. Do you do any retirement planning yourself? And just just listen to what they say and say, well, are you concerned at all about what would happen if you needed someone to take care of you, or you needed help around the house as you got older? And, yeah.
It all depends how you say it, I think, right? Is what you're saying. How you ask the question.
It needs to be said,
Yeah, but it needs to be said.
A lot of times we don't talk to our family members at all in reference to finances, money, or anything. So we don't know, what happens. I was listening to one of my friends just the other day. She was saying that one of her relatives had a big settlement, and then not too long later passed away. But $450,000 sitting in their bank account, and she had no one else on it. So where's that money now, Manny?
Without any children. Well, based on if you die intestate, which is the term where you don't have a person designated as the beneficiary on a specific account or asset that doesn't have like a custodial account agreement. So your retirement accounts already have that listed, but it goes to the state, and you have to prove, you have to probate, you have to usually pay up front a certain percentage of the assets that are in their state. It has to be public. You got to put their name in their newspaper saying if you have any liabilities in 3 newspapers. If this person had any liabilities, come out and reach me. And so you have all these people coming at you and calling you. It's a really public process. And then there's lawyers and time and a whole bunch of things.
I'm glad you brought that up, Tanya. I have some older relatives, and I'm glad Pam brought that up. They are in their 80s or 70s or whatever, and they did not have a will. And at that point, our platform was so large, we had a company where we could sell a will to somebody, and we had attorneys and everything to help them set up the will if they wanted that, or they could run through it themselves, type it out because they give you the format, and then go have it notarized, or our group of attorneys will help them with it. And it's just, I'm glad that they did that, because they ran into some medical issues later. And this is critical. The amount of people that are in their 80s and 70s, and this is what they think they could do, or they're even in their 90s. Well, my daughter lives with me, or my son lives with me, or he lives down the street. I have an only child, so I'm sure to go to them. No, man, if there's no will in place, no trust in place, no something in place to designate that person, you're going to fight with the state.
Yeah.
All right. And they're going to get go right ahead.
And it's not just people with money too. It's if you have children,
That's right.
So you pass away, you thought everybody was good, and your mother would have been nice to your mother-in-law, and they would figure out who's going to take care of your kids. Don't let it up to chance. It's going to just turn a really bad situation ugly if you don't have a will. And your wills, yes, going to tell people where your assets should go, but it also should say who your guardian is going to be, right? Who's going to manage money for you? Who's going to be managing the money for your children? And that doesn't have to be the same person. Maybe it's not your mother-in-law, somebody who doesn't know how to manage $450,000, $200, $1 million in assets. If you don't want that to be the same person taking care of your child.
Absolutely.
So unless you talk to an expert about those areas, you just, it's not a good situation.
And people won't talk, and everybody just assumes that, they're going to be here tomorrow. And even, I look at my classmates, we've been out of school 40 years now. So, we need to be talking about this to one another. And some of us still have our parents alive, and we haven't asked our parents any questions. I was talking to one of my doctor friends one day, and he was like, no, I haven't talked. I said, your parents are in their 80s. And you don't know if they have a will, or if your name is on their bank account, or what their plans are, or what their wishes are, even if they pass away. You have no idea. He's like, no, because I'm not the oldest. I'm like, but you live here. Your brothers and sisters live somewhere else. So what do you mean? Because they're going to look at you like, are you crazy? You don't know what mama and daddy want. And so we just don't talk. And we think that our only asset most times is our house. And we don't even
talk
about
business.
that.
Or our business.
Our house or our business. And we don't even talk about that or have those things in place. And if we can get one message out to people today, is, you all need to talk to other people. Talk to your family members. Tell them what you want. Tell them how you want your money's handled. And then when it comes to your personal self, because, sometimes we don't do it because, I think that I'm going to be here till I'm 100. I don't need to talk to my children right now, but I do too, and it needs to happen now while we're in our right mind, because we're going into Alzheimer's a whole lot sooner.
And the issue is with the Alzheimer's and dementia, A lot of that sickness, and I'm not anti-medication at all. All right. A lot of the sicknesses are side effects to different medications that people are on. But let me go back a little bit. And I hope you guys are enjoying this. I know Pam is. She's getting a lot out of it. Man, we probably should have had Pam on the show too.
One day, real soon, we'll have Miss Pam.
Sherelle said something earlier that she retired 10 years ago and she's still getting interest on her 403b. We've had people that have 403bs, 401ks, 457s, and they roll them over into fixed index annuities. All right. And depending on the type, or they roll part of that money over into a long-term care account. All right. A lot of people retire and they don't have long-term care. Now, why am I a big component and I stand behind long-term care? Because my mother could not stand insurance agents. I went to school for insurance and real estate, but she would not support me in it. She could not stand insurance agents. She said we were thieves.
Oh my God.
All right. So I was working with a company called Mutual of Omaha, and it was a short stint because I had no support and I'm living at home. Right. So, but when my mom passed away, that woman had every type of insurance you could think about, especially long-term care, you know. But you need to know the ins and the outs and the laws that go along with that. Now, I deal with long-term care a lot, and there's a lot of people that have disability or they have some type of medical insurance, and then they find out the hard way that medical hospitalization and long-term care, two different things. You know, and then they start using their retirement money to cover those long-term care expenses, and I'm telling you that money could get eaten up quick and in a hurry, because long-term care expenses can skyrocket very fast. So I always encourage people this. If you have 403, 401, 457, like Manny said earlier, you know, he didn't say specifically like this, but I'm going to say like this: diversify where you put that money. All right. Why? Because you don't want all your eggs in one basket, but you want to make sure that everything is covered as much as possible. All right. Because when you get up in that age and just, well, my baby's going to take care of me. My daughter, I know my baby loves me, but she got her own life.
And you can have her still do that. You have long-term care policies that can pay a person as close to you. For some,
That's right.
Some policies, like the federal government employees, they have a really good one where usually there's a difference between the payment for someone who's related to you at some point versus something that's professional. But they have really good rules and provisions to allow you to do.
Oh yeah, so, absolutely. We got people that have
paying for long-term care policy doesn't mean that you have to go with someone else and never be around your family. That's
right.
Not what
that's
it means.
Right. You can actually use the benefits, because in our policy, that money's paid directly to you, and then you could dispense and disperse, and depending on the type of policy, you get more money than what you actually need at the moment. But it's very critical to make sure.
I'm sorry to cut you. And your kids might have good intentions, and they may have all the means to do that. And then, you know, what happens when you're in middle age? You know, something that happens, and you have financial constraints, and you have marriages that work or don't work, and you know, if you have some money with you that can help with the cost of help, you know, getting you through old age, that's good.
Yep. Hey, listen, I wonder.
On top of having really good kids,
we got to get ready to wrap it up in a couple of minutes, but I'm gonna ask our engineer if he wouldn't mind putting that AAA information back up, as well as Manny's contact information back up, so people can see that. And I hope you guys take screenshots, all right, of this info. If you want to get in touch, with myself or Tanya or Flo, even though she's not here, you can get in touch with her. All right. IUO for building tax-free cash. I love that because it works like a gym. That's pre-tax money. If you're looking long term, depending on how much you put in, you gotta. I mean, if you want it to work, you gotta really put some money in there. All right. And the same thing with a Roth IRA. We're talking about some pre-tax money that when you take that money out, you don't have to worry about it being taxed right then. You will be taxed when you go buy something, because Uncle Sam wants, you got to pay tax when you make a purchase, right? But taking that money out, it's already been pre-taxed. So there's some insurance available like that. All right. Hey,
Manny,
tell us.
Go ahead.
Right ahead, Tanya.
So Manny, tell us what kind of customers you're looking for, who you
There
want
we
to
go.
talk to, that kind of stuff, and we're going to wrap it up from there.
Yeah, so if you're a professional, you just finished med school or grad school, and you're interested in getting back on your feet, managing your debt, but you don't have assets to manage and pay for financial planning, true financial planning, certainly here to support you. I have a subscription-based model, a retainer-based model, so that's certainly within your means. Then there's also people who are late career. They're trying to go into retirement. They need investment management. They have over $250,000 in investments, and they need some support. Or the third option is you're a small business owner. You're trying to compensate your employees, retain your employees. It's hard to keep them, and you're trying to figure out a way to do that. Maybe pay make use of the EIDL loan that you got, or the PPP loan. There's some retirement plan solutions that you can look at to both help you towards retirement and help your employees and educate them as well. So if you run any of those three opportunities, in any one of those three types of situations, give me a call. I'm here to help.
Well, awesome.
Man, that's powerful.
You so much for being with us again this week, sharing some awesome information to our clients, to our customers, our friends, families out there.
Our family, our friends.
For our family and friends out here in Facebook world and in YouTube world, we really appreciate it. What we try to do here at Financial Sense is kind of correct those things that we've been doing wrong year after year, time after time, and just make them all better. And what you had to share with us today was awesome. On next week, we're going to have Mr. Terry Clark, who will be talking to us about non-qualified, the things that we all love, probably on that other side of what else you can do with your funds tax-free. And so that's kind of what we're going to be doing next week. And we hope that everyone will join us. You want to take us out, Anthony?
Absolutely. Pamela, you definitely want to make that next week, because he's going to talk about just what you was asking. Hey, listen, folks, do us a question. Like us, or do us a favor, like us on Facebook. All right. Tell your friends, spread the word. Like us on Facebook, like us on YouTube. There's a like button on YouTube. I saw it. I that thumbs up button, man. Press that thing, get carried away. Act like that you're on some type of drug or something. Just go, right? Like us, all right? We want to thank God for our engineer who's running for mayor of Port Wentworth. I got it right this time. All right, his name is Julius Hall. So if you're in this area, remember that name, Julius Hall. Like him on Facebook. Check it out. Vote for him. He's going to be the mayor of Port Wentworth. Thank you for being with us today. We love you guys. We're here because you. Join us next week. Don't forget, we're here because of you. Thank you for joining Financial Sense. We appreciate you. And Manny, we can't thank you enough, sir.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.